So, as we've been hearing and as was expected, North Korea was the major topic of discussion during those string of sideline summits at the Nuclear Security Summit in Washington. But will this be enough to send an effective message to the North Korean regime? Kwon Soa spoke to some experts to find out.
With bilateral talks between South Korea and China and the U.S. and China both lasting much longer than anticipated, the importance of Beijing's role is being emphasized in regards to dealing with Pyongyang's nuclear and missile threats.
It's been roughly a month now since the UN Security Council resolution has passed, and implementation by China is seen as a pivotal point. That's why the South Korean and U.S. leaders have most likely urged President Xi to make active and long-term efforts.
Experts say the urgency of the matter requires more cooperation than just following through with sanctions, especially with the threat of a fifth nuclear test by North Korea looming.
It's still not the amount of pressure that we can bring to bear on the North Korean regime is still not quite comparable to the level that we've seen in cases like Iran or Syria. So if there are ways to further tighten existing sanctions or impose additional measures to change the North Korean calculus on its nuclear program, then I think that's a positive development.
And an example of that, Dr. Kim says, would be tying in the issue of North Korean human rights raised at the trilateral meeting between Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo. He added increasing the level of readiness and military cooperation, as well as sharing of information, would be a good idea too. But tight trilateral partnership may not be so appealing to China.
What's interesting about the latest development is that Japan and Korea is now starting to cooperate under the U.S. umbrella. And that also sends a really troubling message for China. China needs to get moving on this front, otherwise it may get left out of this, about how problems might get resolved on the Korean Peninsula. And that's not in China's best interest either.
Closer cooperation between Seoul and Tokyo can be partly attributed to the landmark deal on Japan's sexual enslavement of South Korean women before and during World War II. President Park Geun-hye and her Japanese counterpart Shinzo Abe's brief reaffirmation at the summit may not have been enough, though.
There is still protest within Korea from citizens and the surviving victims. Although working-level talks on the follow-up measures of the Seoul-Tokyo deal are in progress, it seems like the two countries are not ready.
It's also seen difficult to raise the issue at this time with South Korea in the midst of preparations for April elections. Kwon Soa, Arirang News.